I was sent to document what it was like for an average supporter on the ground in D.C. They were having the victory rally in Capital One.
Yeah.
This, of course, was after the swearing in at the Rotunda. And the line there was, it almost took your breath away, how long this line was for people to get in the victory rally. We've been interviewing people right outside of Capital One. I cannot emphasize enough how long this line is. People have been in here for hours. The idea was, the idea was that they wanted to get into the victory rally so that they could watch the swearing in on the big screen. They had it on the Jumbotron in there, and they were only going to let in 20,000 people. And I assure you, this line was much longer than 20,000 people. There were people, I was talking to them, waited 4 hours, 5 hours, camped overnight. And again, it was freezing.
Oh, I mean, so cold.
Whatever you think about why it was moved inside, cold was maybe a factor. It was freezing. Wind chill was crazy. It didn't bother me, and Josh was soft and left. But for us really, hardened individuals that wanted to be there with the people, it was very cold. And so what we ended up doing was we went from Capital One just to see like what the Capitol was like. And I knew this was coming. When we were doing this, I knew this was coming. So you get a tweet from the Telegraph with no context. And of course, these days are over, right? Because the fact checkers are gone. We got the people. They did, of course, did a comparison. Donald Trump's inauguration crowd size compared. And they have on the right, they had from 2017. On the left, they had 2025.
Yeah, this is the National Mall leading up to the U.S. Capitol.
Yes. And so if you go to the YouTube and you see this, it's completely empty. I mean, there's maybe some people, but completely empty. And of course, quick fact check, it was move indoors.
Yeah.
So Simon and I went to check out the Capitol, and there was, I'm not exaggerating, like no one there. Like it was maybe a handful of people. And so you had to pass a security choke point to even get to Pennsylvania Avenue. But once you got into Pennsylvania Avenue, they kept you closed in. You couldn't go far left or far right. And so there's just, people would get through the security checkpoint and then leave because there was nothing there. There was really nothing to see. So all the action was over by Capital One Arena. And so what was awesome about it was we were up against the barrier for the line, and the line was so long. And we were at kind of a choke point, and I was right in between a French reporter and a German reporter. And
oh boy.
And so the French, and it was kind of cool too.
And one surrendered to the other. It was amazing.
Right. You can have my seat. Take it. No, you.
Yeah. And the French reporter was French American, so she spoke English. The German reporter was speaking only German. And it was me and this French American reporter basically sticking our microphone over the fence and being like, hey, how long have you been waiting in line? Why are you here? What's most important to you? And why I'm glad that I was able to be there compared to what we saw on social media, because everything on social media just hit so fast. And in some ways, it wasn't totally representative of what the on-the-ground crowd looked like because it wasn't outdoors. So everything that you saw was inside the rotunda, which was cool. People were watching on their phones, even in the line. But to get to speak to the supporters, one thing that immediately was clear to me, I was asking people, why do you really think it was moved inside? And sensing that maybe they would say they're frustrated because they couldn't see anything, yada, yada, yada. Not a single person I talked to had any problems with it being inside. So I think I talked to someone like, I would love if he got sworn in a bunker and we never saw him. Like, as long as he's safe, obviously they keep shooting at him. So no one's really concerned. I was shocked also with the diversity, not just of the people in line to get in, but also the diversity of answers as to why they supported President Trump. Everything from getting wokeness and LGBTQ stuff out of schools, people frustrated by being labeled domestic terrorists. I've heard energy a lot. Many people are saying they personally were affected by Biden's drilling policies, want to see energy unleashed. And probably the most common was the lawfare. I spoke to someone from Nigeria, Brazil, China, Japan. There's people coming from literally all over the world. And even the Americans that came from California, came from Vegas, really far away. And I'd say I heard everything from like energy is important to me personally. It's affected my family over the past 4 years. I'm from Texas and it's hurt our economy.
I know voters like that.
I heard I'm frustrated that Americans, parents concerned about their child's education were labeled domestic terrorists. I got to talk to someone who was like, I was not a Trump guy. As soon as they sent a raid to Mar-a-Lago, I just realized how bad the weaponization of justice has gotten, and that all the things that I had believed about him before were kind of falling away as I saw that all the things they were accusing him of doing, they were actually doing to him.
Projection.
I actually spoke to 2 Ukrainians. I think, yeah. And so I was like, I'm curious, what their perspective.
Did you give them all
would
your
be.
money?
Yeah.
I did not give them the money, but they were
not a Democrat.
They were very thankful for Americans' money. I'll tell you that, because they said, we're so thankful to America for all the support and money. And they had nothing bad to say about Biden, interestingly. But they're like, we're here to show.
Go brrr.
Right. We're here to show our support for President Trump because we believe that he will be able to bring peace. So they didn't have anything bad to say, but they were also like, and I was like, oh, after all the things Trump's has said about Ukraine and taking away, it didn't bother them at all. So anyway, what ended up happening was there was a point where you realized that people weren't going to get into Capital One Arena because they could only let in 20,000 people. And so people, when they were getting closer to inauguration, started kind of spilling out, and they ended up filtering into bars.
Yeah.
And so I ended up in a Hard Rock cafe. They call it the Hard Rock Embassy. And big screens. I'm on the second floor of this packed bar.
That's awesome.
And we're all watching the inauguration like it's a football game, complete with cheering and boos. So Pelosi would walk in, everyone would boo, just like loud, deafening boos. And then Vance would walk in and everyone would be like, woo! Everyone would cheer. And so we all ended up, I was interviewing people in the Hard Rock. We all got to watch on this TV. And it was, I think, the most American thing I could possibly think of in a weird way. It was actually very charming. Being together,
awesome.
watching this on a TV like a sports game. And then afterwards, it was kind of interesting because, again, everything was so blocked off, and a lot of the police were intentionally told not where the motorcade was coming from the Capitol so no one knew on purpose. And so we couldn't really get a vantage point. At that point, we kind of walked around as much as we could, saw as much as we could, and then we dipped out. But
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to look at the footage that I've seen so far, can't wait to see your show, Tom. Really waiting on that. Make sure I'm subscribed. I will do that. To see the streets of DC come alive and with MAGA everywhere. I lived in DC for 4 years through college, and it was so different from my experience of the streets of the city. And I had a friend who was down there from Connecticut. He sent me this footage. He was walking around DC at night, the night after the inauguration, and there were block parties, and there were people blaring Young Man from the Village People all over the city of DC. And DC is like a dead city. They don't have block parties in DC. Like, people come in, they do their thing, and they leave. It was insane, just the energy.